Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Hannah, I'm Bizzy's daughter, and I wanted to make a video today to just talk about my weight loss because it's something that I haven't really talked about, but something that obviously a lot of people have questions about, and I just wanted to make a video to share my story. So I think the number one question that people have is like, is Hannah on Weight Watchers? So obviously that is primarily the content that my mom makes, is a lot of Weight Watcher friendly foods. But I myself am not on Weight Watchers. I am on Wegovy. I've been on Wegovy since May of 2024, so coming up to almost a year, and worked up to the highest dose. So I've been on the highest dose for a while now, which obviously helps with food noise and just kind of like controlling your hunger in that aspect. But I will say, as time has gone on, you need to be doing more than just taking the medication, right? And that's obviously the goal, is not to rely on something and then when you get off of it you have no foundation left, so then you kind of gain it all back. So we didn't want that to happen, and so we focused on like lifestyle changes, and actually like we did lose weight. I lost weight first before getting on Wegovy, just to make some lifestyle changes and adjustments, get in a calorie deficit before I started the medication. So now I'm on Wegovy, I'm in a calorie deficit, and I also work out regularly. So that's like 3 days a week. I can make a separate video for our like workout routine if you guys are interested. Those are like the top three. But really, I think when people hear that you're on any sort of tool like Wegovy, Saxenda, Ozempic, any of those, it's all about your mindset. I think if you go into it thinking that those things are going to solve all your problems, then it's probably not for you. And you have to be aware of like your habits and your lifestyle and making changes overall, so that way when you do eventually get off the medication, you have like a sturdy foundation that you've already set up for yourself, and you can continue your success without the medication. So that's I'll get off my soapbox. That's my only quick note, because I know a lot of people, when they hear that, they hear Wegovy, they're going to be like, oh, well, that's why you lost all the weight. But if you've been on any of those medications before, you probably have had something similar happen where you start stalling. And if you don't have any other lifestyle adjustments made, then it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be long lasting, and you're not going to see results as long as you could. So that's what I'm doing. I am down 60 pounds, and for my highest weight, which is kind of crazy to say because it happened slowly. It was not something that happened immediately. It wasn't like within the first few months of even starting Wegovy that I like lost a ton of weight. It was very gradual, and I kind of appreciate that, because patience is key. Like, that's the number one, is like with anything, whether or not you're on any sort of tools like Ozempic or Wegovy or Saxenda or anything, you have to be patient. Like, you have to give yourself time to adjust to a new lifestyle. You have to give your body time to adjust. You have to give yourself time to actually see change happen, instead of saying, okay, well, I've done this for 2 weeks and I'm not seeing the scale move. Things will catch up. You can't just solely rely on the scale. And that's one of the biggest things that I feel like has made such a big difference this time around. I've tried to lose weight so many times, and I've been overweight the majority of my adult life, and I never really gave myself enough time to let things stick before I would just call it quits. So if that resonates with you, then maybe I'll have something to say that might click with you, or at least maybe you can relate to what I'm talking about. But it takes time, period. It takes time. It takes time to learn new skills. It takes time to learn how to read your body. It takes time to learn new eating habits. It takes time to see results. It takes time for everything. So you have to be patient if you are looking to lose weight. I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, oh, I want to lose like X amount of pounds by this date, and it's like super close and it's a lot of weight, because like I know it's not going to be sustainable. And then even if you were somehow able to hit that like crazy goal, as soon as that event is over, you're just going to like just climb right back down the ladder, or fall off, or slide off, however it happens for you. And I know that's what happened for me a lot. So I think what I've learned over the years of trying to lose weight is that I can't be restrictive in any sort of way. I don't demonize any foods. I mean, I've done low calorie. That was really difficult because I don't eat a lot of meat, so obviously that was not my favorite thing. And I had tried other things besides Wegovy pre-pandemic, but when the pandemic hit, everything kind of became unavailable. And you know, life happened. So I didn't put in the effort, but this is the one time that I've put in probably the most amount of effort into losing weight and being consistent. And I've seen the biggest results. So one other thing that really helped was, in terms of not being restrictive, is eating foods that I enjoy in moderation. I know that sounds like so groundbreaking, but it's true. You can't take away all of your favorite things and then expect to be happy with what you have left, because it's just not realistic. And this is not a diet, it is a lifestyle change. So what I'm eating to lose weight is how I'm going to keep that weight off. So if I'm doing it by restricting myself, never eating carbs, not having any sugar, you know, staying away from highly processed foods, those things are all good to do in moderation, but it's not realistic when looking at your whole life. I know that I want to eat out at least once a week. I know that I love chicken fingers. I know that I love cake and I love sweets and I have a really big sweet tooth. So it's about finding balance in those things to still eat the things that you love so that it becomes sustainable and you don't hate yourself for 3 weeks and then binge everything that you couldn't have. If I'm told that I can't have something, then I just want it 10 times more. So if you are like that, then obviously it just, you know, it takes time to find substitutes. Or someone said somewhere, I saw, eat what you want but add what you need. So in my instance, if, let's say, because I'm a picky eater and I don't get a lot of protein, let's say I'm craving like mac and cheese, right? I am going to look for high protein mac and cheese recipes or tips and tricks on how to make box mac and cheese more high protein, so that I'm still getting what I need on it for my diet, but I'm still eating the foods that I love, so I don't feel like I'm not getting something. I think too, a lot of times, at least I've done this, so maybe you have too, it is, instead of just saying like I can't have this thing, so let's just say it's like a piece of chocolate cake, right? I can't have chocolate cake, so then you have a Fiber One chocolate bar, okay? Fits in your calorie deficit, fits your points, whatever. But you eat it and then you don't feel satisfied because you're like, that wasn't what I wanted. For me, I would end up eating like 10 of those fiber bars, trying to fill that, like trying to satiate that want that I had, when in reality it would have been less everything, less fat, less calories, everything, than if I just ate the piece of cake. So that's where like the balance comes in, is I have to kind of like have that discussion with myself in learning how to have healthier habits with food and not like binge eating or overeating. Is I have to ask myself like, okay, is this something that I really want? Is this something, is it going to do me more damage by not having this thing than if I just had it or adjusted how much I had of it so that I could fulfill that craving and then move on with my life? Because I think, especially with diet culture, and I see a lot in the Weight Watcher space, I don't know if it's just, I don't know what it is about the Weight Watcher space, but on the community page, there's so much like toxic mentality still when it comes to weight loss, because people are still thinking of it as a diet and not a lifestyle, where like I'll see someone say like, oh, you know, let's just say for the Super Bowl, I went off the rails this weekend during the Super Bowl and I had chips and salsa and I had queso and I had, you know, pigs in a blanket and I had all the things that I shouldn't have, and I went over my points or I didn't track, and like they'll put a poll up and it'll say like, what would you do if you were me? Would you not eat today to make up the difference because I overate yesterday? Should I only eat like fruits and vegetables today? And it's like, it's so toxic to think like that. And I think that it's ingrained in so many of us that it's normal to have that, like, to have that thought pop up where it's like, okay, I overdid it, so now I'm just gonna restrict really heavily and then it'll balance out. And I don't, in reality, if you ate like that, it would hypothetically probably balance out if you had 2 days worth of calories one day and then not enough calories the next, it would balance out. But it is so toxic to think like that, because you are not doing your body or your mental health any help by living a life like that. And it is time to adjust your relationship with food if that's kind of how you're feeling about things still. That's a lot of what I had to do, is like look at my relationship with food. Also recognize, like, I don't know if you have this, but like a scarcity mindset. So like, oh, well, I have to have this because I don't know when I'm gonna have it again. And it's like, I can go have a piece of chocolate cake whenever I want. So there is like that struggle is solely in my mind. I know that I can have whatever else to fill that gap in the meantime, or I can just go have a piece of cake whenever I want. So it's not like when given the chance I have to have it, you know what I mean? The ability to make that decision instead of it feeling like it's forced upon you or that you had to have something is so liberating. It's so liberating. And I don't know really like what clicked in my mind to make me think that, but like over the time, again, it takes patience, but over time, I realized that like in this past almost year, like my mindset has shifted a lot in terms of balancing the things that I eat and making sure that I'm still getting what I want, but including the things that I need. That felt like a little rant there for a second, so I kind of got lost in a wormhole. So going back to the whole have what you want, add what you need, I found a lot of mac and cheese recipes that use cottage cheese to make the sauce with like the packet sauce that comes in the box. I've made that, that's really good. I have the cauliflower Alfredo that I've made that's super delicious. There are so many other people doing the same thing right now that there's a lot of resources, a lot of recipes. Obviously, I also get a lot of things from my mom, but you can have what you want and add what you need, and then you don't feel like you're deprived. And I think that's a really big part of making sure that what you're doing is sustainable and realistic and long-lasting. The other thing that I've always struggled with is like a perfection mindset, and I know my mom has talked about this a lot too on Instagram and YouTube, is, there's my dog Nero, is having like a perfectionist mindset. So let's just say, you know, I went over my calories for breakfast, right? Instead of thinking like, well, now my day is ruined and now there's nothing I can do to make up for that, and I wish I hadn't, or now I have to like do this instead of this. Instead of feeling like the whole day is a waste, think of it in terms of like meals, if that helps you. So if I messed up my breakfast, throwing off my calories for the rest of the day, then just do better the next meal. Don't think now my day is ruined, so now my week is ruined, and then you start making more decisions that aren't in line with what your journey wants to be or what you want your journey to be, and then all of a sudden it's like this circle, right? Like, fell off the wagon, hate yourself for it, and then make more bad decisions, and then you end up eventually back at square one, where then you're like, okay, like I have to start over again. So breaking that cycle is really important, and part of doing that is by recognizing like no day is going to be perfect. No day is going to be perfect. I'm never going to drink, you know, 1 million gallons of water a day. I'm never going to get 10,000 steps and 9 hours of sleep and 40 minutes of cardio and you know, hit all my protein goals and never eat sugar. Like, though, it's never going to exist. It's just not. And it might for some people, and if that works for you, that is incredible, but it didn't work for me. And that was part of the restriction mindset that I had, was also being a perfectionist. So I had to really let that go and understand that like eventually everything is going to balance out. And just because I had a muffin for breakfast that was 300 more calories than I wanted doesn't mean that I can't still do great the rest of my day. And eventually, over the course of my week, I can account for those extra calories and it's going to balance out anyways. So you can still be successful by not having perfect days, and understand that no day is actually ever going to be perfect. I think another thing to focus on is going slow. So obviously this goes hand in hand with patience, but doing things slowly. So don't, like I just said, add 10,000 things to your to-do list that you want to accomplish every day when the one thing doesn't get done, and now you're like, well, I just ruined, you know, my whole routine or all my progress, whatever. Going slow means for me, when we started going to the gym, right? Like the goal was to go to the gym. The goal wasn't let me do 45 minutes of cardio and 45 minutes of strength training and doing these exact machines. And that was not the goal. That can be the goal later, but if you're not going to the gym and that is one of your goals, to actually start working out, then that is your goal, to go to the gym. So whatever you do at the gym is amazing. That's like fantastic. If you made it to the gym, you hit your goal. And you have to think of it like that if you're someone who struggles with like doing enough or setting yourself up for failure, basically. So going to the gym was one of my things, was like, I'm just not going, but I want to go. So going to the gym became a goal that I achieved. And then after a few weeks, it was like, okay, how can I make my time at the gym worth something? How can I, now that I'm feeling comfortable in like the days that I'm going, the routine that I'm making, how can we like emphasize or enhance our time at the gym? That's when it was like, okay, here's some workouts you can do. These are some like alternating things that you can do. So you can change your goals as you go. And I think that's really important to realize, because like those goals are going to change always, right? Like even let's just say I lost another 100 pounds, right? My goals at 100 pounds down are going to be way different than what they are right now. And that is, you have to be flexible with yourself, and you have to be flexible with your goals. So if something's not working, then you try something else. It doesn't mean that you're not like meant for this. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It doesn't mean you don't have the willpower. You have to find what works for you, and not everything that works for me will work for you. Not everything that works for you will work for me. But like taking bits and pieces of people's lives who are on this journey, I think is so amazing and special, because it makes it feel less isolating, and it is such a great resource for actual people doing the same thing, right? Like being on the same journey. I would just say be flexible and go slow. Adjust your goals as you go. I know that's been really helpful for me and made a really big difference in my mental health as well. Another thing that my mom has talked about a lot that is worth mentioning again is to measure non-scale victories, even more so I think than the scale. So starting on Wegovy and starting lifestyle changes, it can be so, I totally understand, like it's so frustrating when you're doing all of the right things that you want to be doing and like the scale just isn't moving. But I will say, when the scale didn't move for almost 3 weeks, I fit into a smaller size pant, and I was able to feel a difference in my body that wasn't reflected in the number that I saw on the scale. And that is one thing that you also have to fix your relationship with, is the scale. I'm not someone who weighs every day. I only weigh once a week, because I don't think for someone who has that like type A perfectionist mentality or attitude with a lot of other things in life, it's not healthy for me to weigh myself every day. But also, weighing yourself every day isn't giving you the right picture, because you are going to fluctuate. Like it's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down, but it should kind of be like in a trend going down, right? But if you are so focused on that scale going up that it impacts your mindset, and it puts you in a rabbit hole that isn't where you want to be or should be, don't weigh yourself every day. And even I told my doctor that, I said, she's like, how often do you weigh yourself? I said once a week. And she's like, okay, thank God. Like, please do not weigh yourself every day, because it's going to fluctuate. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, or if they're, up even a pound from the day before, you have to understand that like you have to eat a certain amount of calories in order to actually gain a pound. And unless you did that, chances are that's not a real increase in your weight, right? It's just your body fluctuating with like water and how much sleep you got and so many variables. So you have to break up with being married to the scale which is, it sounds counteractive or counterintuitive because obviously I'm on a weight loss journey, but seeing that once a week is enough for me. Like, I can see what I see and then be like, okay, like that's just data and here we are. I like to see it once a week at least, just because I like to know where I'm at in the journey. And you know, if I do see a trend going up, then I'm kind of like, okay, you know, what can I change? Was I active last week? Did I, you know, eat too much of one thing? Should I be adding more protein? Should I have more fiber? Like, do I need to eat more vegetables? So use it as a tool and not as the end all be all, because that is also another shift that has helped me tremendously. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, and scale anxiety is real. And if you're someone that is married to the scale, then please maybe try switching it up to once a week or maybe once even a month. But I know it goes both ways. So if you're someone who lets a whole month go, then you might think, let's just say you weigh yourself on week 2, you're like, well, I have 2 weeks to make it up, you know, like I can have whatever. I can overeat this time and still have enough time to like catch this scale before my next weigh-in. That's also not healthy, and I totally understand that side of it too, because then you're kind of like bargaining with yourself. At the end of the day, you know who you are and how you feel. So if waiting in between weigh-ins works for you, then do that. But if it also does the opposite and you're like, I need to know at least once a week, do what's right for you. But I definitely think once a week is plenty. It might just stress you out to do it every day. And if you're like me like that, then I highly recommend just once a week. I think a lot of times it can be easy to forget to reward yourself along the journey. And one thing that Jacob was actually really good about doing was rewarding ourselves. So when we, for instance, also, I've historically used food as like everything, right? Like, it is what I would go to when I was sad, what I would go to when I was happy, when we had something to celebrate, when we were upset about something. If you had a good day, if you had a bad day, you know, like it was the one thing that was kind of like my shoulder to lean on, I guess. And so that was like a big relationship adjustment that I had to make, because like food can't be your problem solver for everything or the way that you celebrate. So in line with that, rewarding yourself along the way, well, obviously you can reward yourself occasionally with certain food items. One thing to do is focus on other ways to celebrate that aren't food. So for instance, Jacob's been really good about that. When we lost 50 pounds, he surprised me with a couples massage, and that was seriously like one of the best gifts ever. It was so relaxing, and it was such a fun way to celebrate our success so far. And it was something that I never would have done, and it didn't involve food. It was something that was like good for us mentally, it was good for us physically, and like 100% would do again. And we were like already planning our second one. So rewarding yourself along the way is also important, because you need to show yourself appreciation for all the hard work that you're putting in. And when you are counting every single thing that goes into your mouth, and making sure that you are working out a certain amount of time, or hitting certain muscle groups, or, you know, just even going to the gym and being active, trying to drink enough water, you know, having a job and doing all of your other things, it is so important to reward yourself for sticking to your goals and doing what's best for you on this journey without overdoing it or relying on food to be your reward, basically. I'm gonna have to put a list together of some other non-food like celebratory things or rewards that you could do. I mean, obviously as you lose weight, your clothes are gonna be loose, or you're gonna need to go shopping, and that's another thing that can be really fun to reward yourself with, is like, you know, a new pair of jeans, or go on a thrift haul, you know, whatever you enjoy doing. If you like puzzles, then reward yourself with like a puzzle, or, you know, things that also can keep you either relaxed or keep you busy, because depending on what your hobbies are, if you're someone who likes to be kept busy, because then you're not thinking about food all the time, than something like a puzzle or, you know, like a paint by numbers type of situation. But if you were needing peace and you're needing just like time for nothing, cannot recommend a massage enough, because it was so relaxing and I felt like a different person afterwards, and I really wish we had only done it sooner. This is also not groundbreaking, but planning and prepping has been a huge part of staying on track. So the weeks that we've actually gotten into a good groove. Jake and I typically meal prep on Sundays, and we meal plan everything, right? We plan out our dinners, we go grocery shopping, we plan out our lunches, figure out all the calories, how it's all going to work together, meal prep on Sundays, and there's no better feeling than when I wake up Monday morning and I don't have to be worried about like what we're going to eat or what we have in the house, or is it going to fit into our thing, into our diet, or, you know, our calories for the day, how are we going to make it work. Having all of that pre-planned is such a stress reliever, and even though it can be annoying to do it, you will thank yourself, because then all week you don't have to worry about what's happening, how much you can have, or where you're at, and like try to like deal with odds and ends. Planning and prepping has made 100% of the difference, and sticking to that has been so easy because of how good it feels during the week. Another mind shift change that has happened is using excuses to, you know, talk yourself out of doing something, right? Like, if it's the end of the day, you're really busy, you got a lot done, but you're just exhausted or tired, and you either don't want to cook or you don't want to go to the gym or whatever. Stopping the excuses and just doing it anyways has been, I think it's part of the circle that I was talking about earlier, you know, this cycle of like not doing something and then you don't do other things, and now you end up at square one eventually, starting over. Well, like that's where the excuses were for me. So I could so easily talk myself into not doing something, and that I don't think I realized at the time how much damage I was doing by doing that, because it just was so normal. It was natural to do that, to be like, oh, I'm too tired, or oh, well, you know, my back hurts, or my feet hurt, or whatever. But I think getting out of that mindset and doing it anyways, being tired and doing it anyways, not being motivated and doing it anyways, not having energy and doing it anyways, has proven to me that like I truly don't have any excuses not to go to the gym or not to cook. I mean, it's still gonna happen sometimes. Even just earlier this week, was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago, I didn't take out something from the freezer for dinner on time, and I really wanted Wingstop. And instead of bargaining with myself or, you know, being like, well, let's just fly off the handle and get whatever we want, we got Wingstop, tracked it all, ate exactly what I tracked, and I stayed within my calories for the day, and it was that easy. It doesn't, I think when we think of like going off the wagon, it's like, well, if I'm going to Wingstop, then I'm getting, you know, the wings and the fries, and then I need a shake because I need something sweet, or, you know, it's doing all of that. That's like the all or nothing mentality, when in reality, I'm like realizing like we can last minute have Wingstop, and I can still track it and stay within my calories and stay within my deficit. And it's so liberating to think like that, instead of thinking like, well, I need everything if I'm going to eat out, because then it needs to be special, or like that I need it to be, you know, I need it to be this like event almost, and it doesn't feel like that anymore. You can have balance, but stopping the excuses and doing them, whatever it is I don't want to do anyways, has been really liberating, because I've proven to myself that I can still do things even when I don't think I can. And in reality, I know obviously like there's always gonna be someone out there who's like got it worse, who's busier, who's more tired, who's, you know, in more pain, and is doing all those things anyways. But it feels good to like be honest with myself and say like, even though I'm not enjoying this, or I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to cook, I know that like I'm gonna feel satisfied, I'm gonna feel happy after. And that is something else that I've learned too, is that like going to the gym actually does really help your mental health, and it helps you feel better about yourself. It helps with the way I see myself, it gives me more confidence because I am like pushing myself and doing things that I didn't think that I could do. And to feel how that feels, I think is enough motivation, because if I talked myself out of going to the gym, I know it would be a short-term gratification of being like, I'm not going to the gym, I can just relax, whatever. But like mentally, I'm not relaxing, because mentally I am torturing myself by saying, you didn't go to the gym, you know you should have, you had the time, you had the energy, you could have done it, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like mentally torturing myself when I'm not doing the thing that gave me instant gratification not to do. And recognizing that like not having motivation, not whatever it is, doing the thing anyways, and feeling like really proud of the fact that I did it is enough to make me keep doing it. This is a wild statement, but being hungry sometimes is okay. And I don't really know where along the lines those wires got crossed for me, where I felt like being hungry was a bad thing. But I think because I overate so often that it was abnormal for me to feel hungry. So another part of this like journey, lifestyle change, has been reading my hunger cues and understanding when I'm truly hungry, and also recognizing that it's okay if I'm a little hungry. Not to say that I'm ever like starving and not feeding myself, but it's okay to be hungry. And I think a lot of times when I would feel that, I would instantly turn to food or a snack, and it would be something that wasn't doing anything for me, that was just adding calories and not making me feel good or making me even feel full. And not that I don't snack now, but I'm more conscious of how I feel and being okay with being slightly hungry and knowing that I don't need to like instantly go grab like the quickest thing. And also having healthier snacks around is a big part of that. I will do soon like a low calorie staples list of things that I love to keep around the house that make this journey easier and just make life easier and still enjoyable, and still eating things that I love and want to eat, but that are more easily able to fit into my new lifestyle. So I think I've talked way too much, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of things, but this is where I'm at so far. And I might actually go grab Jacob to see if he wants to say anything. He probably has something that I didn't say, but also it might be nice to get a man's point of view on this, as he's also lost a significant amount of weight, and we've been on this journey together, which has been, I think, also a huge blessing, because when you are the only one in your family or in a duo that is trying to make these changes, and you're constantly faced with someone making the opposite decisions, it can be so hard to keep that motivation going and stay on track. But having him do this with me has been like so fun and so much more enjoyable, because we're going through everything together and giving each other motivation when the other one doesn't have it, or, you know, encouraging each other. And you know, on days where I'm like, I have no idea what to make, or, you know, what are we gonna do for a meal plan? Like, it's so nice to have him to step in and be like, well, this is what I was thinking, or here's some ideas that I found, or these recipes looked really good. And then it just kind of starts flowing from there. And having that support is like, I'm so lucky. And it's made such a big difference in, I think, the sustainability of losing weight, because we're doing it together.